Hey everybody, it's your girl Sherry. Welcome to another episode of Alleged Actually Podcast. I am live this evening. I decided to hop on here and go live and do a little Sherry's quick snips and just talk about the Real Housewives of Atlanta season 16 reunion part 2. Y'all, listen, the main thing that I want to get to, and I'm going to touch on a little bit of what happened on Sunday night, but I really kind of want to get down and dirty into the relationship between Shamia and Portia. I have thoughts, and I hope that you guys will join me and let's discuss these theories and kind of like what happened there. But before I get into it, I'm gonna give it a little time and let some folks come on in the room. If you're new here, we do reality TV recaps. We also do pop culture segments, and I am working on a collab with the true crime podcast Sins and Survivors. We're going to be doing a deep dive, y'all. I don't know if you guys used to watch the documentary that, or the series on Showtime that featured the Gigolos in Las Vegas. They were the Cowboys for Angels, particularly one of the ones. Y'all remember the one that had the really long hair and he was Indian, kind of like the Indian Fabio, the very Zen guy. Well, actually, he committed a murder. He killed a young lady back in 2020. And myself and Citizen Survivors are going to collab and talk to y'all about how reality shows and true crime intersects. It's going to be a good one. Y'all, we have a lot of information that you probably don't know. So you got to tune in for that. But yeah, let's talk about Real Housewives of Atlanta. So last night, or not last night, Sunday night, we kick off where part one had left off. And we start off still in the midst of the Angela Oakley versus Phaedra Parks. Now, y'all, listen. As much as I didn't want to admit it, I'm gonna have to give it to Phaedra. I don't think she set it up. But again, when Angela was telling Portia, like, I don't know how you believe her because look how she set you up in season 9. But we all know how that went down, which is how Phaedra got booted off the show. But she's so determined. She pulls out her receipts, y'all, and she talks about, they're all from Athens. And apparently this guy, Marcus, his aunt knows Portia or Phaedra's older brother. Okay, Athens is small. They have like 3 middle schools, 2 high schools, child. It's little. And she's determined. She pulls out receipts showing that by way of their Facebook friends, they know each other and they were in cahoots. And Phaedra asked Portia to use her phone so she could call her brother. Now, listen, guys, was it just me or did y'all find it mighty funny? Here's Phaedra calling her brother on a number he does not recognize or understand who that is. Like, who answers numbers they don't know now? None of us do. But honey, he picks it right up. He's like, hello. And she's going, Angela is bringing this up. Did you know this guy, Marcus? And he's like, no, I don't know him. I don't know his aunt, Kimberly. See, and here's the thing, y'all, that tripped me up tripped me out. Angela said Kimberly. And if you remember, Phaedra says, oh, I don't know Kim. So it's kind of like, if you say the name Kimberly and somebody says, no, I don't know Kim, kind of like, doesn't that have an indication that she might know Kim? I mean, nicknames, short names, all Kimberlys don't go by Kim. So I felt like, plus y'all, I don't know, but Phaedra lies a lot. And so though when Andy asked, like, they were like, well, why would she feel the need to do that? And Angela said, well, she needed to secure that peach. No. Andy even came back and said, no, I think her peach is secure. So I was like, Angela, get off that. Girl, you had a good season. My favorite newbie next to Kelly. And that was just kind of silly. Now, a lot of people's theories are that Angela orchestrated the whole thing herself for a storyline, but I don't believe that, y'all. Y'all weigh in and let me know what you think. Do y'all think that she orchestrated it? I mean, it was dumb when he had the whole, because Portia weighed in and was like, look, I'm trying to rock with you. But when he starts talking about Junebug and this, that, and the third, the story made no sense. Then they hit up Miss Kelly like, hey, maybe you were the one that set it up because there had to be a guest list. Like, how did he get in? And Kelly maintains she had nothing to do with it. Andy pretty much then decides, that he's going to move on. And so at this point, we basically, like I said, she called the brother. He denied it. So we just let it go. Then we get into Angela's age. She's 43 at the time. And you know how Phaedra had said that she's the oldest looking 40 something year old that she knows. Child, she pulls the birth certificate out, and she was in fact born in 81. So at the time she's 43, like now she'd be 44. So she proves her age. I don't know, y'all. Weigh in the comments. Do y'all think she looked older than 43? I mean, I'm going to say it's the way she carried herself. She carried herself very mature. She kind of has this regalness about her, kind of a quiet confidence. And I say this all the time. Now, my co-star Joey, sometimes he will disagree. I don't think he sees it for Angela, but he agrees that she did bring something to the show. She is married to Charles Oakley. She let us in to her family. The dealing with her daughter, not knowing that her daughter got married, really had nothing to do that her daughter married a woman. It was the fact that she didn't know that she was married. The dynamics of her mother and sister not getting along with the daughter and the infighting with the things that she had bought them, the house, the car. And then ultimately, we find out that, she's having some financial struggles with the real estate that she had bought to flip and sell. They hadn't sold, and she's got these, mortgages on the homes that was going to like financially devastate her. So listen, you have to give it to her for being so transparent, letting us in her life. I mean, there's so many housewives, and particularly Atlanta, that come on and like a Brit Edie that fakes it until she makes it. The ridiculous thing about going and looking at private jets and, trying to portray yourself as something you're not. And it's been said that Kelly also, though she was designer down, Balenciaga, all this and everything, that she's had some financial woes in which Andy kind of went into on part one. She was going through a divorce, but she owed back rent on the new location of where she was supposed to open Nana's Chicken and Waffles. And then there also has some new allegations allegedly that came out that she owes Navy Federal like well over $200,000. So there is that air of some of them coming on and trying to show us what they think we want to see. But what we really want to see is authenticity. Folks that are coming on and showing us their lives. Angela's married to an NBA legend, but they have this weird banter. She has family issues. She's struggling with business decisions. Those are things that people can relate to. So I honestly, y'all, I'm here for Angela Oakley. Though the Marcus thing, when he alleged that her husband was cheating, it fell flat. So she proved her age. And then she kind of goes back with Phaedra and says, you know what? If I look 53, honey, you look 63. And she was referring to when Phaedra first came on the show. Child, if y'all go back and look at old seasons when Phaedra first came on versus how she looks now, Phaedra had that, that hairstyle, that old school hairstyle, and she did a lot of those Herb Ledger dresses, and okay, so her look has evolved. So like this is Angela's first season, and so fair, y'all. Let me know what you think in the comments. But also, they get into it. They be tearing Angela up, y'all. They talk about her nose. They flash back to Shamia talking about telling her to go on with that 99 nose. I mean, all right, y'all, let's be transparent. It did kind of give us that old school Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson nose. So yeah. But she actually got her nose job done in 2007. And again, y'all, you got to give her credit because she didn't hide it. She's just like, I got it done in 2007. It is what it is. So, and they joke it off. And they also talked to her about, the fan. She had her fan out, y'all. That's bedazzled. And she's talking about doing a fan line. And one of the viewers asked her questions about, like, come on, just admit you're in perimenopause. And she did, y'all. And there ain't no shame in that at all. Women go into perimenopause sometimes as early as mid 30s. So, again, 43, highly possible. Nothing to be ashamed of. And you got to give her credit because she actually came out the game being herself, kind of being comfortable in her skin. She knew how to hold it down when the ladies came from her. You know, the way she read Britt Edie. I mean, listen, stretch marks on her mouth. Y'all, come on. You got to give it to her. She had a great, great first season. All right, so then we kind of shift over to Drew. Now, y'all, let me say this. I don't think it's fair that we are on part 2. And quite frankly, y'all let me know what you think. But I think that this could have been wrapped up in 2 parts. However, we are going to get a 3rd part, as we know. Now, they have yet to really dive in. I know the husbands will be joining them on part 3, but they have really yet to really dive into really all that Drew's gone through with her divorce, other than Portia's shade about you need to worry about, you know, who's rumpling and tumbling with Ralph in the basement. But they haven't really got into Drew's story about her divorce and everything. However, they do hit Drew with the fact that she wasn't as good of a friend to Angela as Angela was to her. And actually, Angela agrees. I'll give it to her. But you guys, you have to, again, you know, she didn't get a lot of support. You had Portia using her as a storyline about her and Dennis having an inappropriate relationship, child. The whole thing was ridiculous. They said particularly when it was Angela versus Britt, and you know you see Drew in the back, their backflash humming old spirituals and hymns, child. She was out of it. And then in the finale, she just didn't really come to her defense. She kind of left. But again, y'all, Drew was going through some things. Let me tell you something. And I'm not a Drew Sidor fan really on Housewives, but I gotta say she showed up on that reunion because the way she was reading folks back, I mean, she held her own with Portia. And one of the things that I know a lot of people are saying, and I agree, Portia did not have the best season. You know, on part 1, when Drew said that Portia was a flop, yeah, I mean, it didn't land like we thought it was. We've been waiting for her to come back. You know, she's back with her peach. And I know that she probably hoped that she could talk about her lifestyle, some of the things that were going on with her and Simon. And he pretty much had put that gag on her. She couldn't film in her own home. And, you know, so there were some things that kind of set her back. But all in all, you have to give Portia credit because, honey, she showed up on that reunion and she is owning it. Very controlled, but to be fair, you have 3 newbies on the couch. This is their first reunion, and you know Portia's a vet. You know, you got Phaedra hasn't been around long, but I mean she's been around. She's an OG as well, but she's been kind of out of the scene for a minute. And then of course Cynthia is just happy to be a friend of Child. She's not trying to work that hard, and she seems to be perfectly happy with her role of friend of. But Portia came to play. You know, so, and we'll get to that. So they ask, you know, about Phaedra and Portia's history, and we'll get to that. But then Andy asked Phaedra why she skipped the Married to Medicine reunion, but, you know, was happy to show up here. She said that she had done all she could do there and given all she could give. And basically she said, look, you know, at heart, you know, at first and foremost, I'm a housewife. And y'all, we already know that once she got that check and contract to come back to Housewives, she was done with Married to Medicine. And quite frankly, I don't think she had any reason to be on there. She gave nothing, literally nothing. So there's that. But then Andy talks to Phaedra about them being friends again. How could they be friends again so quickly? And she not see it for Shamia the way she has. And, you know, Portia was basically like time, and, you know, it's giving her the time to heal or whatever, where I guess it seems kind of fresh with her and Shamia, which brings us to this part. So Andy then shifts his focus to Shamia and the unresolved issues with Phaedra. Now, y'all, I hadn't thought about that until they brought it up. But so remember on season 9 when they're at the table, it was actually Sheree, Phaedra, and Portia. And she was talking about how Shamia, yes, Shamia, she screws everybody. She does that old school stupid thing, motion, and saying that she was doing Candy and Todd at the same time. I mean, complete slander on your friend's name. And I didn't pay attention at the time, but when they did the flashback, you have Portia sitting at the table, kind of taking it in, never stood up for Shamia, never said, no, don't talk about my friend like that. That's not true. Y'all, she didn't. And so, Andy basically asked, well, okay, so are y'all in a good place? And Shamia was like, basically, yeah. And then Phaedra's like, well, that's not true because I thought we were. We talked, but whenever you're doing these interviews, you're tearing my face off. You're talking about, these things that I thought that we had basically gotten past. But y'all, here's the thing. I mean, for Phaedra to have said something like that about Shamia, for Portia to have not defended her, and for Phaedra to not use the same platform where she tore Shamia down to correct that. A private phone call is all well and good, but no, honey, you need to get on the same platform that you were on, that you disparaged Shamia and talked about her that way and correct it. And here's what really, really bothered me about Shamia. And I told y'all this last week. This is when I didn't see it. Last week when they were questioning her about talking about Portia and making an alliance and, getting these girls to kind of say the things they said to bring up to Portia. And Portia says, look, this girl's been on a smear campaign for me, referring to Shamia. My thing is, this would have been her opportunity to be honest, because you could tell last week she was really backpedaling. You could tell it was giving I'm lying, y'all. And I honestly started off really, really excited for Shamia. Her lifestyle is fabulous, beautiful family. I mean, her home and stuff are to die for. All the things that you want in your housewife, the wealth, all of that, but she seems still stifled by Portia. And let me tell you what I mean by that. So her and Portia have been friends since they were, I guess they said 12, middle school age or whatever, for years. But ladies, we know that in time, sometimes our relationships evolve, right? And sometimes the people that you were closest to in middle school, as you grow up and lives and you become an adult, just don't really have anything in common, or you're not as close. The friendship just doesn't go. And the people want to quickly say, well, Portia's jealous, and I'm not taking that off the table. I believe that Portia wanted that same lifestyle and probably thought she was going to get it with Simon and didn't. But I really think, y'all, it goes deeper than that. Sometimes when you're the friend that's always in the shadow, it's a lot of things that you push down just for the sake of saying, we're girls, we're down. And I feel like that's Shamia. I feel like for years, Shamia has let those little slick comments slide, that she's been the butt of jokes, that Portia's dismissiveness of her, she's pushed down. And these ladies picked up on it because they are Shamia's friends and have gotten her to say things. And instead of her standing on business, y'all, and saying, yeah, I said that, Portia, because in fact, you actually really hurt me. It was, y'all, I didn't say that, or I didn't say it like that, or no. And, the whole allegation of them having the alliance, she tries to say that Portia was involved, that she wanted to include Portia. And see, I'm not sure I believe that, because it was her, Kelly, Britt. They had excluded Angela Oakley. But y'all, let's be clear. And Portia says, like, why would I be a part of an alliance? I know that for reality TV, that's the quickest way to ruin a show. Who's not to say that she didn't know or whatever? But what I am going to say is it makes no sense. I can see, because even when they kind of referred to Kelly on it, I just didn't feel it was a strong, no, yeah, Portia was involved. I feel like Shamia needed support, and they were rallying around her. They saw the weakness in their friendship, y'all, and they capitalized on getting Shamia to share, and share she did. And I believe that the things that hurt her, instead of her coming to Portia and really admitting those things, I feel like instead she really, y'all, just pushed it down for the sake of keeping her friendship. And I think that it came out in a way that was not flattering. And I also think that being that this is her first reunion, Shamia was not comfortable enough to really go there. Portia had her stance of, let's talk it out. I love you, but she overtalked Shamia a lot. She was like, I will be heard. She really controlled the conversation, and Andy let her. And Shamia just felt like it looked like watching her where she just didn't have the ability to articulate the way she was feeling. So it just really gave where she shut down. So it was kind of like Portia 1, Shamia 0. And they state that they're really not talking. They're not in a good place, and they don't even know when or if they will be, which is a shame. But I think a lot of us have to realize that it was cool when she was on the show all the other seasons as a friend of. That was like, yeah, I'm gonna bring my girl on for this segment or this episode. A lot of times she would go with them. I know she went with them on the trip. Some of the trips they took, had fun, party. That was, she was Portia's sidekick, if you will. But Shamia is a formidable housewife within herself. I would like to see for next season for her to really find her voice and to not worry so much about, how it sounds. I think it's apparent, they bring up the fact that she didn't go to her wedding, and they go and flashback to the little joke where she said, she had a medical condition. They kind of made light of it. Then there was this controversy on whether she had one or two weddings. Portia proved that she was at the wedding that she had in Atlanta. Shamia says that wasn't a wedding. It was like a dowry ceremony. I don't know, y'all. They ask about, did she congratulate Shamia when she got her peach and take her out? No, she didn't take her out. But then Portia had receipts. She showed her phone where she had sent Shamia flowers and the congratulations. But like I said, for me, I saw something different. I really felt it was deeper than that. I think it's years of feeling dismissed by Portia. Portia has big energy, and she was the reality star. And though they can kind of move in the same thing, I think that if they had to choose, they probably have two different circles they run in, and that's okay. And again, sometimes you simply outgrow your friends. At this point, y'all, that was the major crux of it. But when Andy had them break for lunch, he brings up a little bit more about why Britt's not there or Kenya's not there. So then they bring up Kenya's statement, which I have, and they talk about it on the show. So basically, Kenya had put her statement out, and she said, "I'm disappointed to not be a part of the RHOA 16 reunion taping today. Please know I take full accountability for my actions and deeply apologize to all those affected, including Brittany." Y'all catch that shade? She spelled her name wrong. Oh, the cast, crew, guests, and viewers. And I look forward to seeing you all back on Bravo soon. Child, that is yet to be determined whether she is coming back for season 17. At this point, y'all, I don't know. How do y'all feel? Do y'all want her back? I mean, what she did was deplorable. However, we also find out, y'all, that Miss Drusa Dora may have had a part in it. Now, remember when Portia did her live and said that it was a housewife that had fed Kenya this information, pictures. And when they panned to Drew, y'all, she didn't fight enough. She just kept saying, I'm really tired of my name coming up in these rumors. Girl, you look guilty. Now, according to Britt, the pictures that Kenya had blown up and whatever at her spa event were not actually of Britt. And then we find out that, Portia tried to make a claim for Kenya because they discussed the Kenya situation a little bit. And she said that, when Kenya had gotten the car after they left the bank, she was actually visibly upset about Britt's remark on having the pew pew. Okay. And, upset, scared, concerned. Prior to that, Angela said, that's why she had put that question in there when they were playing the game where they would ask each other questions, because she really did not believe that Kenya knew how she had offended Britt. So now, when they did the flashback and the very first meeting of Kenya and Britt, when Kenya makes a comment about, oh, are you married? Is this your ring? And she was like, this is one of them. And she's like, oh, you've been married twice. I really felt like that was kind of a misunderstanding. We have seen Kenya be shady, nasty, filthy. That wasn't it. I really feel like Britt had watched the show, had preconceived notions of Kenya, and just assumed that Kenya was coming for her. And she made a fool of herself. The way she acted at the bank was ridiculous. Kenya then takes the bait and, tries to get her lick back. And at her own hair care spa event opening, made it about her moment to bring Britt down, which in turn got her booted off the show, child. Then they go over to Cynthia to ask, about had she heard from Kenya, and we find out they had not talked since then. So at this point, it's been a year and they have not spoken. But Cynthia maintains, listen, two things can be true, y'all. I can love you down and still disagree with what you did. And I don't know, y'all. I'm with her. I mean, what Kenya did was awful. It was wrong. Britt was wrong. And again, Andy said that they did investigations on both. I'm not sure what that all entailed because they allowed Brittany to stay on the show. Kenya, they asked her, to be sent off. And now we have this big mess of a $20 million lawsuit that Britt Eady has against Bravo, NBC Universal, the whole nine. So, y'all, I don't know. But, Cynthia still remains poised and she's just like, you know what? It's unfortunate. But she stands by what she says, And so at this point, Shamia talks about how, how about her season. She talks about her daughter's health issues and how hurtful it was when Britt had, weaponized that against her. Actually, in the finale, I will say Shamia sure did have a lot of restraint. Britt was nasty. I feel like she tried to, with Kenya off, she thought that maybe she would take on the role as the villain. But girl, you were not seasoned enough. You did not know these women enough. You came off as horribly nasty, unlikable, and really adding nothing. I mean, no disrespect, but the marriage didn't look believable. Your lifestyle seemed fake. It was giving one and done. We know she's now not returning. And so at this point, they do go back to the fallout of the Shamia Portia friendship. And, I don't see it for them. They're going to get into on part 3 about the disagreement between their mothers. So, when Portia said what Shamia's mother did to her mother was egregious, we find out it had something to do with Portia's mom owning a daycare, but could not afford either the lease on the building and, had to give up her business. Shamia's mother actually either leased it or bought the building and then, did a rivalry childcare, which, because they used to be really close. So that kind of tore their friendship. And y'all, let's be clear. It's hard to be close to somebody when your moms are beefing, the whole thing. It's a shame. So, all right, overall, part 2 was good. Part 1, part 2, we got a little bit more meat. We've been waiting to see Shamia and Portia kind of really talk about their problems and admit they have problems because all season it was alluded to because she did tell those things to Kelly, Angela, all the things that she confided those ladies in to Britt. And then they go back and tell Portia, which she should have known better. And I just feel like, again, y'all, instead of owning it and saying, yes, maybe it wasn't the best move to be telling these ladies, but sometimes I feel like I can talk to them about how I'm feeling more than you. Portia did seem dismissive of her in some regard. Even, she tends to shut things down. When it came out about her and Drew and the season about how she'd accused her of the dentist thing, and it was proven that when you watched it back, they really were working about business. She basically got up, gave her a hug, and was like, all right, done. And, she can't really do that with Shamia. There's a lot more years, time, and a lot more to that story. And it's going to continue in part 3. And they're going to bring the husbands. So, the husbands, the ex-husbands, the baby dads, whatever. So, we're going to see what part 3 is giving, y'all. You got to let me know, what did you think of part 2? Did you enjoy it? Who are y'all on? Are you team Portia or team Shamia? Let me know. Let me know about the whole Angela Oakley versus Phaedra. Did you believe that? Or do you think, I just kind of feel like Angela got caught up in something. I don't know who set it up. I don't believe Angela set it up herself. And then I'm kind of on the fence on whether or not really Phaedra had a hand in it. Seemed like this guy just kind of wanted his moment and somehow weaseled in by knowing people or by way of. So y'all, please let me know what your thoughts were. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow with our Bravo Bestie breakdown. We got the Valley finale that will be airing actually tonight, and we will be recapping that for you tomorrow. So come on back tomorrow and let's talk all things the Valley. Thank you as always for tuning in. And if you haven't yet, please give us the thumbs up, like this live, share it with a friend. Replay gang, what's up? Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so you'll be the first to know when we drop our good content. All right, guys. Well, that's what I got for you. Thanks for tuning in as always, and I will see you all on tomorrow night. All right, guys. Bye.